Sigue sorprendiendo que la mayoría que ven o escuchan este podcast no se han suscrito. Incluso el 95% de ustedes no se ha suscrito. Entonces te pido que si alguna vez te ha encantado alguno de estos videos que he puesto o el contenido, que nomás te suscribas, así podamos seguir creciendo juntos y echándole todas las ganas del mundo. ¿Sale? Bueno, vamos a continuar con la entrevista. Continuamos aquí en Echale Podcast y el día de hoy les tengo otro invitado que me da mucho gusto porque es la primera vez que voy a platicar con él, pero lo hemos visto en las redes sociales, en TikTok, lo vimos recientemente en Washington, D.C., platicando, bueno, siendo como que activista a todo lo que ha pasado con la comunidad latina y también fashionista, porque también le quiero pedir muchos consejos. Vamos a hablar con nada más y nada menos que Jay Gonzalez o Jordán, pero pues todo el mundo lo conoce como Jay. How are you, brother?
Bien, todo bien. Good to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
No, I'm so excited. A ver, platícame un poquito, porque when I reached out to you, I was thoroughly surprised and excited to find another IE friend that is in this industry. I was like, hold up, you're also from the Inland Empire. Talk to me.
Wait, where are you from in IE?
Fontana.
Really?
Yeah, Fontana.
Okay.
You said Moville. You're like, okay, but did you grow up? Like, let's be honest. Did you grow up or were you like in LA then moved to...
It's so funny because now that I've been in LA, when people ask me like, oh, how long have you been in LA? Are you LA native? Y luego les digo, no, I grew up in Moville. It's like, okay, so you're not really an LA person. But then when I go to Moville, they're like, you're not really a Moville person. But no, I did.
Now you're a hipster?
Yeah, like I'm in the middle. Like, damn, I'm rejected everywhere.
Yeah. So wait, so you grew up all your life in Moreno Valley?
Yes.
Like born and raised there?
I was born in Pomona.
Same.
Born in Pomona. Valley Hospital?
Valley Hospital.
Okay, so this is a reason why we're here, right?
Yeah, cool. But I'm a 91. I don't know.
93.
What month?
June.
Okay, cool. June,
and for those wondering, I am a Gemini.
Okay, so he's Libra. So.
But yeah, so I grew up in Pomona, spent about, I think, 2-3 years in Ontario.
Okay.
And then the rest of my life was in Morville.
Okay, cool. So that's awesome. How was growing up in Moville? Just because when I was growing up in Fontana, obviously, now I don't want to say that it was dead, but most of my cousins who lived in LA would come over here, but then they'd be like, well, there's nothing to do. So now if we go even further, what was there to do in Moville?
No, it was still developing, which I think now back in the day, I think everyone in Moville misses it because when we showed up there, it was nothing there.
You know who also lives in Moville?
Who?
I love her. My girlfriend's probably going to get mad because she's jealous of her and she should be jealous of Becky G.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
In Moville?
Yeah, she lives
That makes so much sense because I know somebody else and from my past and they've posted Becky. And so I was like, either you're always in LA or like Becky's out here. But
no. She in IE now. She in IE from
IE. Okay. Yeah. Well, Becky G, if you see me around, just,
exactly.
Say hi.
Wait, so did you go to Moville High?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is the community out there?
It's so funny. So I just got off TikTok seeing there's this black TikToker who posted about how he called out the Hispanic community for saying the N-word. And I guess there's been a lot of backlash from the Hispanic community, believe it or not, saying like, hey, we should be, saying these words, whatever. And I was thinking about it like back in how in high school it was basically the black community and Mexicans. And I think we had like 10 white people in the school. But it's mainly minorities there. And it was great. I mean, for me though, growing up in high school, or growing up in Moreno Valley and going to that high school, I just spoke to some high schoolers in Utah for a marketing class. I was a guest speaker. And I was kind of reflecting on what my experience was in high school. And for me, high school was terrible.
Really?
It was a time in my life where I feel like there was so much going on. So early on, I was in a relationship, right? My first relationship ever.
Yeah.
Horrible relationship. I got cheated on like probably 10, 20 times.
Damn.
Parents get divorced.
Who's this trash can?
I'm sure she's probably seen me around and regrets that so much.
Yeah.
And I love that for me.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the
Gemini.
Right, the petty.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hope you're watching and I hope you see what you did.
Yeah.
you threw me into my villain era. But sophomore year comes around, my parents are getting divorced, right? And to backtrack a little bit, when I was born, my dad was completely out of the picture. And so my stepdad was really the only dad I ever knew. And, things start getting rocky. I start to notice, my sister's born. I start to notice that he's treating me different than he is her. And that's kind of the problems between him and my mom, along other things. But it's mainly, hey, you're treating my son very different than your daughter.
Yeah.
And so they divorce. He disappears. He's like, I'm out. Like, you're good. And so I'm
Wow.
dealing with, your new introduction to relationships isn't great. And then now you've had this happen. And then I want to say a couple of years, like my junior year, my real dad dies right before I meet him. My mom.
Hold up, this whole novela.
it gets crazy.
I'm gonna call you Jordan now.
Yeah, exactly, right? My dad passes away. We were supposed to meet, I want to say, within the next 2 months. I wasn't on break yet. And it was the first time I'd ever spoke to him on the phone. And I was like, hey, like, I'd love to meet you. My stepdad's out of the picture. I think it's time I meet you. And then he just passes away, like 2 months before I'm supposed to meet him. Yeah. And so I got that now, and I'm not recovering from any of this stuff. It's just mounting on. My mom gets remarried. She's now in her late 30s, trying to get pregnant, and she has 2 miscarriages. The second miscarriage, it's my senior year in high school. I'm at a soccer game, and I just remember getting a call from my mom, and she's hysterical. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, what happened? Yeah. And she just keeps screaming, the baby, the baby, the baby. And at this point, I think she was like 6 months pregnant. I get home, and it looks like it's a horror movie. There's just blood everywhere. My mom's on the floor, blood in her hands. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm in shock. And I get there, and I look to the tub, and there's like...
a fetus.
Yeah, in the shower. And I remember I just like got on the ground, and I just was like, Mom, like... And it was just the whole thing. So that was like my sophomore year. Sophomore year. That was my high school experience.
Wow, from sophomore to... Okay, well, let's stay there because there's so many things that definitely to unpack. Did your dad ever try, like your biological dad ever try to reach out? So then how did you get in contact with him? Like, did you finally find his name? Was he in the area locally?
No, so he's lived in Mexico his entire life, ever since he left. But there's always people from that city in Mexico, Santa Maria del Valle, Jalisco, that we knew. And so they would keep in contact. And so my mom reached out to someone that knew him or someone from the city and got in contact with him that way. But no, he never reached out and just never looked.
Does he have other kids? Do you have siblings in Mexico?
Yes. I have 2 sisters.
Did you? Okay. See, like, there's just so many, like, I get into, like, I'm not a therapist, but I feel like in my past life I was, because there's so much, and especially when it comes to podcasting, like, to just try to understand the human psyche is just so interesting to me. So, and how, obviously this whole podcast is echándole ganas a la vida, like how you overcame adversity even after X, Y, and Z happened to you. So does that cause any anger issues or resentment towards your younger sisters in Mexico or older sisters? I don't know.
No, they're all. So I'm just a little context. I'm the oldest of 5, and I'm the only boy. So I'm the oldest, and I have 5 younger sisters. So oldest of 6. But no anger towards them. I think when I met them, it was sympathy because my dad died from alcoholism. Like, he drank himself to death. Yeah. And so it was kind of like I had more anger towards him for leaving me and then now leaving them than I think for them at all. When I met them when I was 15, I think. And I just immediately stepped into like father figure role, So no anger towards them, but it did play a lot of part in my youth on what it meant to be a man. And it's funny because I was just having this conversation with my mom on Mother's Day, that in that stage in my life I was so confused because, again, you're trying to be in a relationship and see what that looks like as a man or as a boy, right? And then you're growing up and you're changing, and now you're trying to figure out what it means to be a man. So after high school, that's really when all that happened. It just kind of collapsed on me. I think after that, in high school, I was just trying to keep the walls up and get through it. But after, I didn't go to college, right? I barely graduated high school. So I was just completely like, what am I doing with myself? And so anytime something went wrong, let's say a friendship soured, or let's say I was getting to know somebody and it went south, it just would trickle down this trauma where it was like, you're not good enough. And this is why your dad left. This is why he left. This is why you're never going to be good enough, And so it was a huge journey for me to unpack all of that. Like, I had to walk it back, right? Because I had to ask myself, how come every time I go through something difficult, I go down this like black hole where now I just don't even want to be here anymore?
How do you get to that point of asking yourself? And I ask because so many men, especially Latino men, they can't get to that point of asking themselves, how do I get out of here? What do I need to reflect and internalize so I can become a better person? Not necessarily a better man, but it's just so hard sometimes for people to get to that point.
For me, I've always asked the tough questions, whether it's from other people or myself. So I think I just reached a point. First of all, I reached a point where I didn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I asked myself the question during this time where I was lost. I said, we're born, we go to school, we graduate, we find a job, we find a spouse, we get married, and now the rest of our life is just fighting to see how much materialistic things we can get, and then we leave. And so you're telling me that I'm going through these difficult times. I've gone through everything that I've gone through to do that. I was like, take me out. Like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't even ask to be here, And so the realization number one that I came from that was that I had to be here for someone else. It couldn't be for me, And also, if I took that decision, I may be solving my problems and getting away from them, but I would leave so much more for everyone around me. And so I said, okay, well, I can't do that, right? I have to stay here. And then so I said, well, how can I make it easier on myself? And that's when I started backtracking. And I started really analyzing, because I think you have to get to a point where you have to be self-accountable, right? Where it's like, these things happen to me, and in some way, maybe I don't understand it, but they affected me in one way or another. So it's not my responsibility to kind of amend for what they did, but it is my responsibility to fix me for me. And so I just started backtracking. Okay, when I meet somebody, let's say it's another man, why do I feel so competitive? Why do I feel like I need to prove myself? Where does that come from? Oh, because I didn't have a male figure, right? So I'm looking for, as crazy as it sounds, male affirmation from another man. I want your respect. You need to respect me. You know what I mean? In relationships, same thing. When we're all young, we're out there and we're just talking to as many people as we can. Why do I feel the need to accumulate as many women as I can, even though I know it doesn't fulfill me, right? That's something that very early on I came to the conclusion that I didn't enjoy having multiple partners or being involved with multiple people. I didn't enjoy it, but somehow I kept pushing that on myself. I said, but that's a societal standard that's being pushed on me. You're good looking, you're in shape, you have a great job. You should be doing these things, and they want you. So just because you can, you should. Yeah. And then I just started walking that back again.
Damn, that is deep.
Yeah, and so I just came to the conclusion that I had to figure out who was Jay. What did I stand for? What was really, how did I really feel? And so for me, it was, I'm not competitive towards other men. I want to uplift you, right? Because maybe you've gone through the same thing that I've gone through, right? So how can I become a person that facilitates you being better rather than you and I competing against each other? You know what I mean?
So then how did this, during this time frame, did you have any male friends, and how was that support system?
No. So I lived in Mobile from since I was 5 to 23. When I moved to LA, because at the time I was lost. So I joined the Army, like anyone who's lost. Yeah, I did 6 years. Nothing crazy. I was in the reservist. My MOS was mortuary affairs. So our job was basically to recover the remains of fallen soldiers in the field.
Wow.
So a lot of forensic science related work.
So or I thought bodies or no, you
yes,
did.
Yeah. So autopsies, we did all that stuff. And but I was reservist, so I never got a chance to deploy because my unit never deployed. But I did my 6 years, but I did it because I wanted to become a cop. I wanted to be in law enforcement. And so at the time, I had a buddy in my unit who was doing private security, and I thought it was more mall cop, security. Yeah. I'm in the mall patrolling, And I go and I apply. I show up to this 10-day academy, and it's bodyguarding celebrities and just everybody. Yeah. So I go there and I'm like, oh wow, okay, cool. So anyways, I ended up getting a job through this company in LA, and I move out to LA. And so when I did that, I never lived in LA. I didn't know anybody in LA. And so when I got there and I was going through all this stuff that now it's coming down on me on a time where I'm completely alone. I didn't have friends that were going out to visit me. I didn't have friends. And also my schedule was horrible.
Yeah.
This
is you said at 23 you came to LA.
Yeah.
Is that after the 6 years or during the 6 years?
During the 6 years. So the way it works as a reservist, you're not full-time, showing up. Yeah.
Got it.
You go once a month, so you're able to have a
So then you ended at
job.
29? Or
no, I think it was, I don't remember.
Okay.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
But no, I get to LA, I'm completely alone. Just the friends that I had, back in my hometown weren't really coming out to visit me. And that's really when I start to see the separation of oh, you guys aren't really my friends. Like,
Exactly.
you're my friends because I was local to you and I was just a passing time. But now that you actually have to put effort in, So no, all these thoughts are coming to me because I think I'm alone. And now that I've had the hindsight to look back, I think I was able to have those reflections because I didn't have any distractions. I was completely alone. I mean, my schedule at work was 12-hour shifts, graveyards, and working weekends.
So would you say you were in solitude, but you weren't lonely, or were you lonely?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
So going back to all the trauma, I think because of all those things, I felt the need to be involved around people, right? So there were times where, like, when I still lived in Moreno Valley, and let's say a group of friends were having something, and I wasn't invited, it would affect me deeply. To the point where if I saw everyone out, like friends groups, and I was like, oh, I wasn't invited, I needed to be around people. I would go to Best Buy, or I would drive around because I couldn't be home because the solitude was just overwhelming. And I was like, I need to be around people. Like, I can't just, and I would just start to go down that hole. Why wasn't I invited? Why don't they want me there? Oh, it's because I'm not good enough, So I just start going down this black hole. So now when I move to LA, I have no escape. There's not like I can go and like distract myself.
Because you don't know anybody.
Not only that, but I'm working 12 hours during the graveyard shift. So I can't even text anybody. And so it's just full solitude. And so everything that I've been pushing back just collapses. And it's like, hey, we're here. You can't avoid us anymore. And so I don't think I really had a choice other than to start to dissect these things. Yeah. Really.
So then, okay, once you start pulling yourself out, like what are some of these things that start changing within you while you're in LA?
So the biggest epiphany that I ever had was this is years now. I'm still struggling with all this stuff. But I started to get clarity when I took a solo trip. So at this point, I'm now in a new relationship. It's a toxic relationship, and
haven't healed from anything from
no,
the past.
Nothing, and it's showing up in this, right? And I remember I was going through something because of that, and I had booked a trip. I forgot. I think I was going to go with my brother. My brother being my best friend.
Okay,
but
got it.
He's family.
I was all like, wait, you only had sisters. Where did this brother come from?
No, it's so funny. So we met in the army.
Yeah.
And he's considered like he's family.
Yeah.
But he's black. And so it's funny because when I tell people like I have a brother and I bring
they
him, they're like, this is not who I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this says a lot about you.
Yeah.
But no, so I was supposed to go with my brother, but he ended up like bailing out. And I was like, dude, I'm what do I do now? Because I had 2 plane tickets, right? I have everything booked. And I was like, screw it. I'll just take a random girl. Like, I don't care, right?
You couldn't travel by yourself.
No, what? What?
Yeah.
I was going to Cabo. I was going to go Cabo, balcony, spa. I can't go by myself. And so I remember talking to somebody, and they're like, why don't you just go by yourself? And mind you, I have an issue where I don't like being alone. And I'm like, are you absolutely insane? And they're like, dude, they start telling me about it, And I was going through this whole change of like anything that challenged me, I wanted to do it. Even though it was uncomfortable, I wanted to do it. And so I started asking myself, like, why can't you go by yourself? I almost started having this like dialogue. Why don't you feel comfortable being alone? Yeah. Are you scared? Like, what are you scared of? So I set the challenge. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to Cabo by myself. So I go out there. And I just start immediately when I get there, I just feel so confused. I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to even enjoy this trip? I'm here by myself. I don't know anybody. And I remember I got out of my room, I go to the pool, and I just start meeting people. People start gravitating towards me, and they're like, hey, like, who are you here with? And I'm like, well, I'm alone. And they're like, what? Where are you from? And just start meeting people. Hey, what are you doing later? Let's come out, And then it just starts happening. And I remember, I think it was like the night before I was going to leave, I took that the tour around the Crown, the beach. Yeah. And I remember I just felt so happy. I felt so happy. And then I remembered, like, my energy is enough. I realized, I was like, for so long I've been dependent on other people bringing me my happiness and bringing me enjoyment. I'm like, it comes from me.
Yeah.
Like this whole trip, I've had people gravitate towards me. And it's like, I can be alone and still have fun and enjoy and be happy. And so when I came back from that trip, that's when I started to really push back and embrace the solitude to the point now where I don't really like being social. Like, I've enjoyed it too much. When they say like you heal too much that like now you don't want to be around people. But I just got to that point and, but looking back now, everything that I've gone through has led me here and it's prepared me for the person that I had to be.
That's awesome. And it's so funny because when I first took my first solo trip, it was also life-changing. And it wasn't because I wanted to. I was going to meet up with a girl, and I saw her for a day, and she broke up with me there, and we were in Spain, right? Right? And so we were supposed to be there for 5 days, which led me to be by myself for 5 days. Like the next day, I was literally just traveling to every Gothic church in Barcelona, taking all the drugs that I needed to, and then I was like, wait, this is...
I would have sent her a Zelle request, like, the remainder of this trip, yeah, I'm going to need that back.
Well, that's for another story, but it's just so funny because now I've learned to love my solitude, like you said, and when people are like, oh my God, you're so cool, I'm like, I know. I'm really fun to be around with because I like being around me, you know? So, and I think that is so important. Now that you're out here in LA, where have you seen the most growth in the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Because I see you and I see this confident person. I see this person that's so into fashion. I see you as a content creator, and so many people would aspire to be what you're doing. Like, where has the biggest change come from? Was it during the pandemic, like most people say?
Yeah. You know, I think for the pandemic, for so many people, it was just an eye-opening experience. But for me, so it hasn't been all just straight up.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it. There's been pockets. There's been pockets where I'm going up. There's been opportunities. So to answer your question, so in COVID, the way I got into content was, again, I had officially left that relationship. It was done.
Yeah.
And I started a business, right? I started a business.
Watch, I think?
Yeah. So accessories, watches.
I had to look up on Instagram, like, what does he do?
Get a whole full background check. Yeah. So I started that business, and I was like, you know what? I was hanging around with this group of people that were day trading and they were entrepreneurs. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Yeah.
Stocks. I love it.
And so I started getting into it, and I started learning everything about marketing. I said, okay, well, I want to start a business. How do I make it profitable? How am I going to promote it? And I think at that time I had Instagram, and I had maybe 350 followers at the time. No TikTok at all. And I create a business page, LLC, and things like that.
Damn, you went straight into it, and not even knowing that in an LLC you have to pay $800 straight up.
No, I found out real fast.
Well, this is my LLC, so I know.
Yeah, no, but I remember I told my friend, I was like, look, maybe what if I just start the business and just like don't formalize it. I don't do the LLC, none of that.
Just a DBA.
Yeah, and he said if you do that, you're gonna leave yourself a way out. He said if you don't formalize it, he's like, the moment it doesn't go well, which it may not go well, he said you're gonna quit. He said if I were you, I'd put my back against the wall. And I've always been that kind of person. I'm always been the type of person that if I'm passionate about something or if I believe in something, I'm willing to crash and burn.
Yeah.
So I said, screw it, let's start it. But back to the content creation, it started because I wanted to promote the business. And so at that time, I didn't dress well at all. And so
we all need the tips.
So I went to like a full college, like I would say academy course damn near to learn. I went from skincare. I started looking up like how to take better care of my skin, different facial, hairstyles, how to do my hair, how to dress well. I wanted to promote my brand as like a Louis Vuitton, Gucci style, right? High fashion, I had to.
And you couldn't hire models, so you had to be
I had to be the model, and I have a photographer, so I had to make the content. And so now I just start researching like, okay, well, what color palettes go together? Like what styles, how do you even style something? And I went down that rabbit hole, and it's been progression. Like now I look back at some of the early outfits that I would wear, because I definitely had like a very experimental phase where I was just testing things out. And I'm like, that one probably we couldn't have wore. Like we shouldn't have probably wore that one. But it was just a phase, and I just kept growing on it. And because of that, though, I remember I was talking to some of my family members, and they're like, why don't you make a TikTok to promote your brand on there? And I was like, no, like I have way too much going on. I have work. I'm doing this. I don't need more work. And they're like, well, a lot of people are going viral and whatever. So I remember one day I was having some wine, and I was feeling a lot not sober. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a TikTok. So I start the TikTok. And then I just started seeing how funny TikTok was at the time.
Yeah, everybody was like,
there were comedians everywhere, and it was just so funny. So then I'm like,
Jason Derulo, you're like,
dude, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Jason Derulo face. That's so funny. But so then I make a personal one because I'm like, you know what? This is super funny. And
so you had one for the business. And
it was all business. It was supposed to be only for the business. And then I just was on it so much, and I started enjoying it so much that I was like, I feel like I want to make some TikToks, And it was around the holiday season where, we're going to be around the tias, and they're going to ask, ¿y la novia? And so I started making a lot of content around that, and they just started doing really well. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I keep making content, and the rest is history. You know.
So I want to definitely get into the content creation, but as a business owner myself, and I love to talk about entrepreneurship here. What are some of the mistakes, and what are some of the things that you learned in creating the business? And then I know I'm asking so many, is the business still on?
The business is still on. It's in a hiatus.
Okay.
And the reason why it's in a hiatus is because I had to get my life back together.
Yeah.
I will get into that again with the highs and lows, but I think with business, there isn't necessarily a road path. There should be, but sometimes there's not. I feel like that's why so many people who drop out and don't like structure in terms of like academics do so well, because it's kind of a trial and error kind of thing. There's a set of rules, there's a set of guidelines that like, hey, this is how you should be doing it. But every business is so different, and the way to make it profitable is so different. For me, I think I bit off more than I could chew in terms of what I started doing. For example, I started off selling watches, right?
Okay.
A watch that you want to sell as a high-end kind of commodity, or whatever you want to call it. When you're starting off, you have to invest a lot of money to make it look high quality and have that
How do you even
experience.
like Google, hey, who makes watches?
Oh, again, research. I would spend hours just finding suppliers and seeing how I could get those suppliers.
Were they from China?
And they were from China.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, now we know our Louis Vuitton is from China too.
Yeah. So 100%. And so, and it was that too. That was a part of the research, because I'm looking into where am I going to get my suppliers, and I'm thinking, oh shoot, well, I don't want to get them from China. You know, I want this to be. But then you start researching, and you're like,
everything's made from China.
Everything. Well, they promote them. So you know how recently the TikToks came out with the Chinese factories showing. They promote them on their pages. They say, hey, we make this. Like, if you go on a supplier's page in China, they'll let you know, hey, we manufacture for these brands.
And this has been going on for years. It's not something recent.
No. I mean, this is in 2020 when I started looking into this, so I'm sure it goes all the way back. But they've been publicly promoting, but it's been kind of like a kept secret, because as a business owner, you also don't want to be like, yeah, I get everything from China, and so do these people. You don't want to be the one that outs them. But I knew that. And so what I would do is I would look for suppliers that like are making things for these high-end brands. And I'm like, great, make mine. Yeah. Right. And so, but
They
yeah,
want
just
bulk.
biting. Yeah, exactly. But like biting off more than I can chew. With the watches, I should have started with something that was more accessible to what I was investing into, right? Because again, you're launching a watch, people are going to be very skeptical on the quality, on the reliability. To second that, though, it was also biting off more products than I should have. One thing that I've learned now, observing other businesses, is what they start off is with one good product, and they promote it very well, they make it successful, and then once that product is a consistent hitter, then they move on to new things.
So diversification.
Correct. And so for me, I felt like I was trying, my idea at the time was maybe I can fish many products as I can and see which one bites the most, but it wasn't enough. Does that make sense?
I totally get it. So, okay, I'm going to Shark Tank this real quick. How much did the watch retail for?
The watch retailed, I think at the time, I probably overpriced it. I think it was $150.
And then how much did it cost to make it?
I think it was about $80 all in all with everything together.
Okay, so it was about like $70 margin.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, well, that's not bad for something like, Latino made, but still, I'm sure that these manufacturers wanted you to buy in bulks of hundreds, and you're like, I don't have $10,000 to just give you right now,
So,
or how much did you initially invest in?
I did invest that money.
10,000?
Yeah.
Did you at least get break even, my guy?
No, boy, we're still under. But again, it was one of those things where, so what I did, and I've never talked about this, but again, I don't care. I borrowed money from my parents. I went to my mom and I was like, hey, like I have this huge business idea, like I want to do it. And they're like, how much? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I was like, I need like 10,000. And they're like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, yeah, I need 10,000. And so I got that money, and I was like, but again, I was so confident in myself, and I still am. And I was like, got it. Like, I'll invest it. Like, we'll figure this out. But it was because it wasn't just the product itself. It's the marketing. It's the back end, the website. Like, I designed my own website. Like, I had to learn how to do that, right? Yeah. Paying people to sometimes like come help you out and things like that. But it's something that I now see helping me out in every aspect of my life. So it's not something that I would say is lost, and it's something that's still there. And I still get people that like, hey, what's up with the business? And I'm like, now I feel like I overthink it because I'm like, I can't bring it back unless it's fully ready. right? And it's a dialogue that I have with myself consistently. But it's like now with the other things that I have going on as well, it's like, am I going to actually be able to dedicate the time that it needs?
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm going to release something, a product or a business, it's a representation of me. And if it's not a proper representation, I can't let it be out there.
And thank you so much for being honest about that, because so many people who are business owners and successful business owners started off by probably asking for money, and sometimes it was their parents. And for Latinos, we don't really have generational wealth for the most part. So the only way, it's either saving or we ask for money. So the fact that you asked for your parents and they were willing just goes to show just how much they believe in you and how much they're willing to see you grow. And I just know that you have that grit in you to kind of keep going. So thank you for that. Now with the whole content creation, it starts blowing up. When was your first brand deal? Like how far into it?
I think it was pretty early on, actually. I want to say maybe within the first year at some point, I had Tilly's reach out.
Oh, okay, Tilly's.
I know, that's how I felt. When Tilly's reached out, I was like, Tilly's?
Did they underpay you?
So I didn't get paid the first time.
Oh, okay. Tilly's.
Yeah. But it was a straight just gifting opportunity. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to kill this as much as I can. So I remember I picked the outfit and then I styled it a certain way. But I styled it in a way that wasn't, and that's one thing I've always tried to do is like make it my own.
Yeah.
Right. So I knew Tilly's was kind of appealing to like the younger generation. I said, but how can I make it a little more upscale? Like me and like a little more high fashion. So I remember it was like, I never forget, it's a black button-up, Vans, has little flowers in here, these like tan kind of short hoochie daddy shorts. And so I threw a Vans hat on top, and then I threw some loafers, no socks. And I did content around that, and they loved it so much that after that, I think we did like 2-3 other collaborations that were paid.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that was my first brand deal. And that's when I realized like, okay, like, again, up until this point, I hadn't taken it seriously yet. But then I start getting that, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's something here. I get more brand deals. I start working with bigger brands. And it just kind of keeps escalating from there. I eventually got to work with, like, Dior. Dior reached out for a campaign about, I think it was a facial hair cream and cologne, the Sauvage cologne. Ended up working with Echale, which has been, like, one of the biggest brands that I've worked with. And yeah, it's just been an insane ride.
So, I mean, I don't know if you are an oversharer. I'm definitely an oversharer and transparent. But what was your initial brand deal look like versus the biggest brand deal that you've got in terms of monetary?
So the first one, I think, with the first brand I worked with was like $200, I think it was. $200-$300. And I was like, to get, like post. And
I remember I got $50 and I was like, whoo!
Right, exactly.
Like, I'm rich.
And then I would say the biggest one was Acura, which was like, it was a good amount.
Okay.
It was a really good amount. No, it was like around like above 10,000.
Okay. See, that's not bad. Like I said, when I started off, it was like, and obviously you have way more followers than I do. So please pay this man what he's worth because he deserves it. No, but it was $50 and the most I've gotten was from Thrifties and it was about $14K.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was like just doing content. So then when you imagine a world of content creation, does this now become your LLC? Or are you doing it under your watch's LLC?
So I haven't done that yet, and that's a mistake that I need to do. I know.
I'm like,
I come across that that mindset a lot, and I'm like, I need to do that, and I haven't done it yet, and it's gonna bite me. I know, especially tax season.
No, definitely no, because when I first started, it was just like my podcast. No, not my podcast. It was just my Instagram, and it was just a DBA. And then when the podcast started getting money, and then when my social media and TikTok started getting money, I was like, no, I need an LLC. So it's like Echale Entertainment, and then under that, they're the branches of like all my social media platforms.
Yeah.
And so it's always interesting to talk to content creators to see like how they structure their business.
Yeah.
But at least you have the background and you know what to expect.
No, I'm just a procrastinator.
Yeah.
I am. That's what happens. But I know that I should be doing that.
Okay.
And I will.
In terms of the fashion aspect, was there any backlash for being a Latino male that you wanted, that people started criticizing because you were into fashion? Because I want to learn how to dress myself too. Now I have a girlfriend. It's like, okay, ya no van a decir nada. But it did cross my mind. Like, if I start dressing a certain way, are people going to start thinking
that you're gay? Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I got it really early on, like serious questions.
And how early on did you start changing your fashion? Like, obviously you're 31 now. At what age?
I want to say, so 2020, what is it, 2021? Was it 4 years ago?
Okay, so this is fairly new.
Yeah. Yeah, I started getting backlash immediately, especially people that, I grew up with in Moreno Valley. They start questioning, like, what are you doing, right? Like, why are you dressing this way?
Because you're in LA now?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That was the first one.
You're a
They're like,
hipster?
yeah, you're an LA boy now, so like you think you have to dress, and it's like, no, I just want to dress different.
Yeah.
But I feel like people always tend to they want to keep you how they imagine you, right? And so when you fall out of that bubble, I don't think that makes them feel comfortable, or it's something that they're not used to. And so it's a people-pleasing thing that if you try to stay within the bubble, like you don't want to receive their backlash, you want to keep them in the normal that they know.
Yeah.
And for me, though, I had reached a point where, so going back to all that trauma thing, one thing that I realized when I was going through that phase was everyone's opinion that I'm worried about is not here right now helping me deal with this. Like not a single person is reaching out and saying, "Hey, are you okay? Hey, I heard that you're going through something really bad. Like, are you okay?" People knew. I would tell them like, "Hey, dude, like this person did this to me. Like I'm feeling terrible." No one reached out. And so I'm like, why would I care about how you perceive me if you're not here when tough things get tough, right? And so when I started getting that backlash, it rubbed off of me.
Wow,
I'm like,
great.
this is what I want to dress like now. But when it came to my family, I definitely got the accusations of like, ¿y este qué? O sea, like if I wear taper pants, ¿no tienes para los pantalones? ¿O va a llover? ¿O qué onda?
Brincacharcos.
Brincacharcos, hey, all the time.
Yeah.
And you just kind of learn that like you don't understand, right? Like this isn't your world. You don't understand fashion. You don't understand style. And so to you, it's going to be different. You're not going to receive it well. But it's also not your job to receive me well. Again, it's for me to like who I am. And if you don't perceive me well, then that's fine, right? I also don't agree with your like paisaneras that you do sometimes, you know what I mean? Like getting drunk till 4 a.m., but that's you, right? Like you do you. But yeah, it's just something that you have to get comfortable being in your own skin and know who you are, right? Especially when you start, like if I had fragile masculinity, and I tell this all the time, I wouldn't be able to be around the people that I am. Because in fashion, there's a lot of people that are from the community.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I am in
this industry.
In this industry in general. So if I had a fragile masculinity, I would be, I don't want to be around them. And I would be very offended if someone was like, oh, are you, not, straight or anything like that.
You're not an ally?
Yeah. And so to me, it's like, no, I know who I am. And if it's fine if you perceive me differently. It's perfectly fine.
How has, obviously fashion has played a huge role in your TikTok, but like in workplace environments, like has that come into play? Like, oh, okay. Like have you influenced other people to start dressing better within your circle?
I don't think they'll admit it, but I think so a little bit. A little bit. Like I know some coworkers now. Like so, it was so weird. So for 9 years, I was a celebrity bodyguard. Right.
Oh, any big celebrity names?
I can't say.
Oh, really? NDAs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But during that time, it was so funny.
Look you up right now, AI.
But it was funny because there was a time where I was in the field, and when you're in the field, you have to dress a certain way, very professional, very bland, But it's like I'm also a fashion guy, so it's like I feel very uncomfortable dressing that way because I'm almost out of my element, right? But now that I'm out, I'm in the office now as director of marketing. I'm able to dress however I want, and I love it. But I've noticed people around the office now. They're like, oh, and like you start seeing them wearing different shoes now and button ups, and I'm like. And I've even called them out. I'm like, you're dressing a lot better now that, you see me. And they're like, oh, well,
And it's so funny because one of my best friends also dresses really well. And for some time in college, I was like, I'm going to start buying some of the similar clothing. And then he called me out on it. And I'm like, no, I just wanted to change my style.
Yeah. No, but again, so going back to the competition of it, right? I'm not afraid. Like I would look at other men that dress better than me or that I felt dressed better than me. And there's definitely still men that dress better than me now. And I don't feel like I need to compete against you or reject that. And I can say and admit, hey, dude, you look good. Where'd you get that? I think I'm going to, that gives me an idea, right? Or I'm inspired by your outfit, right? Like, but we tend to have this human nature that like, if I admit to you that you, it's like, I'm less than now or like, it's embarrassing. It's like, no, it's perfectly fine. You can tell someone else like, hey, you've inspired me to do better. Yeah. You know what I mean?
How do you go about creating the content that you do now? Because obviously it's been such a success. It has allowed you to, monetize your content. And that's a beautiful thing, creating independence and probably like leaning you more towards your entrepreneurial business that you want to get to. But how do you go about creating your content? Do you bulk? Is it on the spot? Do you have a routine? So many people are trying to find like the formula, right?
the leading rule I've always had with my content is that it will always be authentic. So that's like kind of the North Star that I have. I know a lot of people that do strategize.
Yeah.
I'm not like that.
Okay.
I am filming my life as it goes.
Gotcha.
So, for example, like a lot of people, Instagram is very magazine cover, right? It is what it is. That's how that.
I hate it too because I think like that.
It is. It is what it is. And I've tried to change it up. And don't get me wrong, there's other people who carry it differently. But unfortunately, I feel like for me, it's how I enjoy my things. Like I can't bring my TikTok self onto Instagram. It just it's not natural to me.
I agree.
So yeah, my Instagram is my magazine cover photos. That's where you see the fashion posts. That's where you see, you know, the splurges of like, you know, just dropping a bunch of photos at one point, the photo dumps. But TikTok is, I feel like, the biggest platform because I enjoy it the most because I'm able to just be myself. If I have an impulse thought on anything, it just comes out.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, so I'll be driving in the car and then I'll be sitting there thinking about something, and then I'm like, okay, I have to park because I have to say this real quick.
Oh, see, I probably should do that because I have those thoughts, but I'm like, I'm gonna say it when I get home, and then I forgot.
So I used to do the same thing and I started writing it down.
Oh, damn, see, I need to learn from this guy.
I what I do now, because I did the same thing. I would be like, dude, I had this idea that was so good. I think it would have been so funny, right? But I forgot about it. So what I started doing was on my notes on my phone. If I have an idea or if I have a saying, whatever it is, I write it down, like content ideas, and then I just put a little note, boom, 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 like a bullet point real quick. And then later on, I'll sit down, I'll get back home, and if I have the free time, I'll sit there and make it. But the majority of them, though, there's more times than not where it's impulsive and on the spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your activism. How early on were you, you know, I want to say triggered, obviously, by this administration. It's led you now. You just got back from a trip in Washington, D.C. I want you to talk about how that went. And then this new project initiative, Roots and Wings, that I was graciously invited to be a part of in the beginning. You know, so thank you
still
for
a
that.
part of.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could be more involved, but, you know, life gets lifing. But thank you so much because I think it is a beautiful initiative. But I would like for you to talk about Roots and Wings.
Yeah, so I think it was an impulse, like you said. It was a triggering moment. This administration obviously came in, and we start seeing this negative narrative that's being presented about Latinos, about Mexicans in particular. And so for me, growing up, you know, Mexican and in LA or the IE, regardless, you see, that's all you see is Latinos around you. And so in that period where I was lost, I was taking what any person who's lost employment that they could find, which is construction, warehouses. So I'm seeing firsthand our people out there, you know, doing everything they can for their family in Home Depot, waiting for hours on end. So I'm seeing this, and I have this in the back of my mind, and I've always felt very proud of our culture. I feel like, especially here in LA, there's a huge mounting pride that, like, Latinos and Mexicans, like, we're hard workers.
Yeah.
Like, we come here. Chingones, no nos damos por vencidos, no nos rajamos, o sea, siempre peleadores. So that's always been in the back of my mind. And so when these deportations start happening and this rhetoric of you know, Mexicans comes out, I remember one day it was a Saturday, I woke up and I'm going through TikTok and I'm seeing all this just trash. And then I start seeing our people, like the other community members on TikTok, saying like, hey, who's saying anything?
Yeah.
You know, they're saying, you know, we need someone to speak up, and they're pointing the finger, rightly so.
Yeah.
Hey, a lot of you guys promote that you're Latino and you're Hispanic. They're like, but right now your people need you. And what are you saying? What are you doing? And so for me, I took accountability. I was like, you know what? I have to say something, and there's no one saying anything. Someone has to say something.
I think that was my brother over here, Fabian, who posted something like that. He's like, well, he called out the Latinos, and that thing went viral on social media.
I don't know if it was Fabian. It was somebody else. It was small. You talking about Fabian?
Fabian from Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think he was also at the Washington conference, I think.
OC Native?
No. That's OC Native. That's from Orange County.
Yeah.
Then there's oh my God, Peña Consulting.
Yeah. I did meet him. Yes.
He's my fraternity brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Peña, he's so quiet, but like
he's funny. Have you seen that fool dance? Yeah. He's like on another level. Shout out to Fabian over there.
Yeah. No, so it wasn't him though, but it was the same message. It was true. And so I just started making content around it. I just started speaking against it. And then I just had an idea one day I said, we're content creators. Why don't we make a video kind of sending a message? It was a bold idea, I think, at the moment.
Fabio. His name's Fabio. I said Fabian. He's going to kill me, but it's okay.
So I just started thinking, like, look, we're content creators. Why don't we send a message back to the White House? And I feel like now looking back, it was a little, like, bold to be, like, directly at the White House. Like you're gonna see this, but that's how I felt at the time. I was like, oh, okay, like you guys want to come for us, like we're gonna say something. And so I remember I just went on TikTok and I just made a call to action. I said, hey, if you're in LA and you're a content creator, I have this idea for a campaign. And dude, the response was insane.
Yeah,
I mean, the people, it blew up.
Loved it.
People started tagging so many different people, and we just got everyone together. And at that time, I didn't have a clear vision for what it was gonna be, but I just knew that the message had to be a thank you back to the community, a thank you to our parents, who us as first gen who are here, for allowing us to be here and have the platform and the opportunities that we had, but also reminding like this country of like, we belong here. Like we're not supposed to be elsewhere. This is our land and we've come here for the opportunity just like you did. Yeah. And Roots and Wings came as the name because, our roots, right? Being here in California and this being a part of Mexico at one point, still is, but whatever.
And you know what? I mean, before you even get into the wings part, like I don't even know where that came from, but it just reminds me of Frida Kahlo. Pies para que los quiero si tengo alas para volar. Sí. And it's sort of like never giving up on your dreams. Yes. And, we have the wings, spread them wide and just fly.
And that's what I was going to get to. That's what the wings was for. The roots being where we came from and where we came up from, but the wings now being the transformation of where we're headed to. And that being our generation. Our parents are the roots. We are the wings now. And I remember I just had this idea. And so, I just had a great group of people. Now we have about 50 content creators that's in the group. You're in there as well.
Need to be more active, but yeah.
No, and it's great, though, because, out of those 50, there's so many more here that aren't, maybe not say willing, but that just aren't participating. And so having even someone say, hey, whatever I can be of help with, that's enough. And so, we made the video. The video was well received, I think, by the community. And I think it was a beautiful video that everyone, it did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to be an emotional hook. Yeah. And it was supposed to remind our people that, like, hey, I understand that the news media and this administration keeps telling you you're criminals and yet you don't belong. But we're here to remind you that, yes, we do, right? We're here for a reason. We're not criminals. And the only thing we want is the betterment of our families.
Were you able to showcase some of that work to legislation in Washington?
So going to that, before you get to that, it is being shown right now at Pierce College. I forgot what the class is, but I did have a professor reach out and ask if they can show it.
Look at you, not even going to college, but you're
exactly the work's getting in there, right? Yeah. No, so when we went out there, they did give us an option to speak to Congress, but or Congress members, but I wasn't picked for the interviews.
Who made this call?
I know. I was like, dude, what is going on? But we did have so back to DC. I just came back from it, but what we were doing in DC is basically it was a conference called Trending Up. And what they did is they gathered about 200 content creators from the country and that are using their platforms for social change, whether it's climate or immigration, anything like that. Aaron, right? Aaron Parnas?
I believe so. I'd have to look him up.
The guy who's always like breaking news.
And yes.
He was there. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes.
I remember we were doing the reception. I was like,
and he was doing.
He was just hanging out. He was just hanging out with the group of everybody, and I was like, "Isn't that Aaron?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "That's the U.S. That's the America's news anchor right now."
Yeah, we literally believe him. Yeah. Way faster than any other news outlet.
Yeah. So he was there. So that's the type of people that they were bringing together.
That's awesome.
And the cool thing about it though was out of those 200, 50 of us were Latinos. And and it's funny. So me and OC native Fabian here from. I remember we were having a seminar one day, and I was like, Fabian, how many people here are from the West Coast? And he's like, dude, I think you and I are the only ones. And I'm like, yeah. And so me and Fabian were the only people from LA that were out there, or even from the West Coast at all. Everyone was.
Was it Noé Cepeda there too, or maybe?
He might be, but from the people that we knew, I was I don't know. I don't know if I met him.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just knew so many people were in Washington that I follow, or that I know, and I'm like, okay, I know you're just back from Washington. And Fabian, I actually reached out to him too during the same time that I reached out to you for the podcast because I want to bring him on. And he's like, I'm barely getting back from Washington. Give me some time. And I'm like, no worries, bro. Do your thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, seeing your guys' content reflecting, and basically showing up for that community. In Washington, it's in such a divided place. Like, obviously that brings so much pride, and we're so appreciative. So what did you learn, and what can you bring back in order to continue Roots and Wings, and what are the next steps that you want to have for this project?
So, while my video wasn't able to be shown to legislature, I do think that it was shown to representatives here in California, though. I do think that happened.
Which we have representatives come every Friday. I should show them your video.
Yeah.
Like, we literally have a whole movement called Voz Voto Vida.
Okay.
To impulse voting. Yeah. And we literally have senators, congressmen. We had Senator Padilla here.
Okay.
So... No se me había ocurrido esto ahorita que me dices.
No, se te va el avión.
No, literally se me va el avión. No. So I need to show them, like, hey, before you leave, check this out.
Yeah, so we didn't get a chance to show that, but it was because of that the video that I was there to begin with, but so it did have its use. But no, when we were out there, we met with several organizations that are doing different work. For example, we met with Informed Immigrant, which is what they're doing is they're helping content creators get the factual information out. Nice. So, for example, this Thursday they have the courthouse hearing for the birthright citizenship. So they sent us bullet points and information that are facts. So if we're going to talk about it, like, here are the facts versus just opinions. And that's one of the biggest things that we harped on when we were out there is that, like, hey, we need to make sure that, yes, you're using your voice, but you need to make sure your voice is being used in the way that's not fear-mongering, but it's providing facts and help and hope, right? And also just how to continue to use our platforms without it also affecting our personal image, because that's the thing with stepping up, right? And I've seen the change for sure.
In terms of, like, content engagement,
no. So my content engagement, I would say is it's good and it's better because of it. But I would say the amount of brand deals that are coming in have stopped.
Less.
Yes.
Got you.
I've gotten some good ones, and I've applied that I would normally, even brands that I've worked with in the past, that they're like, hey, like, we're interested again. Then it's like, they go silent.
For, like, a content creator, or on your end specifically, sort of like wanting to call out these brands? Because I'm sure like at some point you're just like, F you.
Yeah.
Because I know if you're not calling onto me, it's because I'm creating this type of content, and that means you're against our community.
Yeah. So one thing that I've learned to have is, I would say, respect and empathy. So, because let's get away from the brands for a little bit, and let's talk about, like, Latino creators who aren't saying anything. You know what I mean? I understand it, for example, to an extent, but I do understand that this is a living that they make, right? And they're not able to speak on it because, unlike me, I have multiple sources of income. They don't. This is their only way that they get paid. So, yeah, maybe they can speak on it. Yeah, they'll lose the money, but then is anyone, like, who's going to come and help them and pay their bills, right? So, yes, they'll step up. They'll do what's right for the community, but it's like, moving forward, they still have a rest of their life, and some of these people have families that they have to contribute to. So I get it. Do I agree with it? I think there's some ways that you can still get involved. And some people are, don't get me wrong. Everyone that, they see their content creators that aren't speaking, they're doing things behind the scenes, right? I know a couple brands that are Latino owned that are not necessarily being vocal about it, but behind the scenes they're supporting. But I've learned to understand that I shouldn't expect everyone to be me.
Yeah.
So just because I'm being very vocal and I don't mind crashing and burning and losing, because I don't. I genuinely don't. And that's one thing, an agreement that I had with myself when I started doing content, is that I'm always going to stand on what I believe in and be authentic. And this doesn't define me. My value system doesn't come from this.
Yeah.
This is just a tool that I'm using to, number one, have fun with it, right? And two, spread the message that I feel needs to be out there, which currently is about immigration. But in the past, it's been about dating. In the past, it's been about just overcoming, hurdles in life. Yeah. But right now, it's about immigration. But I'm willing to lose it on that. They aren't, and that's fine. Right. So when it comes to businesses, they also have something to run. Yeah. Now, if you're directly against us, that is a very different thing.
Target.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
If you're directly against us, that's a very different conversation. But if they decide to say, hey, right now, this isn't something that we want to get involved in. OK, great. Will I work with them in the future? We'll see. I mean, I don't know. That's a decision I have to make.
How much money they bring in?
Yeah, exactly. The disrespect has to match the paycheck, right?
Yeah. Okay. But like, Jay, I want to go ahead and thank you so much for your time. For coming on the podcast. We literally talked about your life, your adversities you overcame. Is there something that you feel like you left out that you want people to know, about you?
No, I just think that we're going to continue to do the work that we're doing now when it comes to the community. Right now, there's so many opportunities coming up. We're going to be working on so many different projects with Roots and Wings, and I'm excited. I'm excited to just continue to bring hope and just speak out against everything that's going on. And if I have to be the sacrificial lamb to take the heat, it is what it is.
Where can people find you?
Jay Gonzalez on Instagram, which I'm sure you'll put it up there. But if they want to follow the movement Roots and Wings, it's on Instagram as well. That's where we have our social page.
Thank you so much, Jay Gonzalez. Check him out on Instagram and then also follow Roots and Wings. We'll put all the information in our bio. Thank you. Me sigue sorprendiendo que la mayoría que ven o escuchan este podcast no se han suscrito. Incluso el 95% de ustedes no se ha suscrito. Entonces te pido que si alguna vez te ha encantado alguno de estos videos que he puesto o el contenido, que nomás te suscribas, así podamos seguir creciendo juntos y echándole todas las ganas del mundo. ¿Sale? Bueno, vamos a continuar con la entrevista.